Good morning. I'm very happy today to welcome Marcia Harvey, a great talent from the United States. Good morning, Marcia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very happy that you joined the live. It's my pleasure. First, I would like to know about your background. Where did you grow up, and how did you started to be interested into the arts and acting?
I grew up in a suburb, maybe 40 minutes south of Atlanta, in
Mm-hmm.
Fayetteville. And I got in to the arts. My parents put me in a theater camp when I was 13. And that kind of, I never looked back. It was something I didn't anticipate I would enjoy as much. But from there, I did theater in high school and then into college. And then from college, just kept going and discovered film and TV, which has been a really, really cool experience.
Great. I want to ask you, is it a little bit different to grow in Atlanta and study rather than growing in other states with the film industry like California, Florida, New York? And how did you get adapted and started your professional pathway after you finished your study?
I would say growing up, Atlanta's film and TV market wasn't as booming as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely thought you had to go to LA to do the big stuff or New York to do the big stuff. And it kind of came at the perfect time when I decided this was going to be something I wanted to do because things had been filmed in Atlanta, but kind of the boom happened around the same time I was interested in when I got my agency. So that's
Mm-hmm.
when a lot more bigger projects were starting to be filmed here and studios were starting to get built. And so for that, it helped in getting representation and it also helped in being able to work here and not necessarily have to uproot my whole life to go to LA
Mm-hmm.
or New York. So that was an unexpected blessing, I'd say.
Yes, yes. When we travel, I'm Egyptian, but we live in Ecuador. We pass through Atlanta Airport a lot when we are on our way to Los Angeles or New York for a festival or a conference. And I spoke to accidentally in the last year a lot of artists from Atlanta and Georgia, and they've been telling me they've been getting a lot of opportunities, without needing to travel to
Hmm.
California or New York. And I think there is a great future for Atlanta since also there are studios and there are, shooting there. And also there are stories related to the ambient there, right?
Excuse me?
There are stories related to Atlanta, Georgia being filmed right now. I mean, there are characters and stories related to the ambient in this part of the United States, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's cool to see other big shows reference Atlanta because it has grown so much. So although they
Mhm.
don't film, Atlanta gets a lot of it gets mentioned a lot in shows, which is kind of cool.
Yes. Tell me about your work in television. You work in a lot of important productions like Reasonable Doubts and The Resident. So tell me about your experience. And I think there was a remake of First Wife's Club, the movie. It was adapted into a series.
Hmm.
So tell me about your experience in television and what did it bring to you as an actress? I mean, performing and getting into characters and getting into more experiences.
So I'd say there are times where I still find myself pinching myself because I
Hmm.
get to work with actors that I grew up watching,
Hmm.
specifically with Dynasty.
Hmm.
One, the fact that, it was a pretty big show, it was a remake, and it was my first theatrical booking. And
Hmm.
being in a scene with an actress from The Parent Trap. And as a kid, I watched The Parent Trap all the time. And so looking her face to face and working opposite her was one of those moments of how did I get here? So that was really, really cool. And to continue and work on the game and know that that was a show, because that was also a reboot, and to be on the set, and it was a show in, I think maybe high school I was watching, and I was like, God, that's really cool. I'd love to be on a show like that. And even First Wives Club, I didn't get to work with the main female cast, but I got to work with Ron Rico, and he's somebody I grew up watching. I believe he was on Sister Sister, which was a Disney show back in the day. So it's been really cool to do the thing and to be doing this with people that I've looked up to, and to know that, you know, at the end of the day, we're all talent and we were all here to do a job, and that job is to be actors. And so that's been really cool. As far as getting into characters, I haven't had too many characters that were so far from myself. Most of them are pretty grounded. I think the one that I had where I had a lot of fun with was Dwight in Shining Armor, and I got to be a fairy princess. And so I got to create this whole character, and I got to wear the costume, and I got to wear elf ears, and the makeup and the costuming was stunning. And it was really cool to just dive into this fantastical world, because that's not something I typically get to do. In film and TV, more theater, you get that fantastical element. But yeah, I think it's been really awesome to explore myself as a person, explore how I can stretch myself in different ways, whether it's emotionally, whether, you know, depending on the role, if it's one or two lines, or, you know, I'm a day player or I'm a guest star and I'm in a whole episode, to just do the work of how to prep for that. And yeah, how I show up for myself and how I show up for myself as an artist kind of go hand in hand in prepping for stuff like that.
You know, when I watched your show Reel, I see that you are capable of doing drama and maybe comedy. But I wanted to ask you, do you have a dream character or a dream project you would like to realize in the future?
Ooh. So this is likely going to come as a surprise. I love horror films.
Really?
I'm big, yes. I love mystery. I love psychological thrillers. I like the darker, the better. And ideally, that would be amazing to be in, you know, a horror film or a psychological thriller, similar to works that Jordan Peele does, or something like Hereditary would be. That would be a moment where I'm like, oh gosh, this is actually really cool. And
it's a very strong film, by the way. It's a kind of film. Myself, I watched it once. I don't want to watch it again.
No, my friends joke with me because at like 8 a.m. I'll be having a coffee and I'll have The Conjuring on the screen, and they're like, "Is everything okay? Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yep, living the dream. This is a normal Tuesday. Nothing crazy."
Tell me about your film work. You've done a lot of roles as well, like Be Happy, and you worked with Tyler Perry as well. I think he has a studio right now in Atlanta, right? In Georgia. He's producing a lot of his films and television works there. Tell me about this experience. And right now, I want to know, what did you learn from this, working with him in this environment? You know, because he's a, you know, he does everything. He writes Mexico stars and he supervises the production. I think working with him is a great experience for a rising actress.
Yeah, that so it's funny when I tell people, and I know this is the experience of a lot of
Mhm,
actors, when you tell people you're an actor, their first question is, "Oh, what have you been in that I've seen?" And we all joke about it because it's like, "Well, I don't know what you watch." So, and it feels weird kind of listing off the credits that you have. But another question I get too is, "Oh, have you worked with Tyler Perry?" Or "You definitely should get in with Tyler Perry." And I'm like, I'll let you know when that happens. So to now be able to check off that box, and when people ask, I'm like, actually, I was in a film, and it was one of those, it felt surreal because you hear about him all the time, he shoots here, but to actually be on the stage, be in the studio, and to see him physically in real time, I was taken aback a little bit.
mhm,
And one thing, and that I think it's across the board, people know he films incredibly fast.
mhm,
And that was something that challenged me because I'm used to going on set, we'll do a rehearsal, we'll do blocking, everything is pretty slow per se.
mhm,
It moves fast, but it's your brain has time to catch up. And with him, it was just like you are on set and it's go 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 go. They're walking through the rehearsals. I'm still trying to catch my breath. I'm also like, oh my God, Tyler Perry's standing right there. And I got a little flustered at first. And he looked at me and he was like, Marcia, take a breath. You're good. And I was like, oh my God, I promise you I'm a
mhm.
professional. But he does move really fast. And I think
Yes.
that was something I knew, but experiencing it in real time was definitely something I keep in the back of my head of just always being on, always being ready. And, just hearing the other actors talk about their experience too of shooting in a very short window. Because sometimes if you're filming a movie, it could take 3 months, whereas this movie took maybe a month or whatever the case. And so hearing their experience and talking about how challenging it was, but challenge in a good way, and now they have time to kind of catch their breath, um, was really also insightful as well. And so um, I didn't get to interact with him a lot, but he was
Mm.
very kind in the short moment we had, and I appreciated him kind of saying, "It's okay, like just take a breath, everything's fine." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Sorry."
I liked him a lot because he did once a movie as Alex Cross. I've
Hmm.
maybe seen the two films by Morgan Freeman, Kiss the Girls, and Along Came a
Hmm.
Spider, and I thought he would do more. I liked him a lot. And as well, he's a very great comedian. He does a lot of
Hmm.
characters like Eddie Murphy in one film.
Yeah,
And
he's a great
maybe
actor.
great actor. You told me about him shooting fast. That's why sometimes when I see new releases, I see that in 1 year he has 2 or 3 films, maybe.
Hmm.
That's why, because he's working fast, maybe faster than Clint Eastwood as a director. If you like as well thrillers, I used to grow up watching the original Twilight Zone.
Hmm.
And Rod Sterling, who did the Twilight Zone, did another series end of the 60s, early 70s called Night Gallery. And I loved it a lot. It's this kind of, anthology. So in 1 hour, you can see 3 or 2 stories.
Hmm.
If you like this kind of stuff, maybe slow burning, horror, psychological thriller, you should look it up, yourself. And also a television series called The Sixth Sense.
Hmm.
It was
Heard of it,
70s as
yes.
well. I liked it a lot when I was a child. I was born 1971. And there is a television series, British. If you look for it, it's online. Some episodes called Thriller. And I
Okay.
love it. I remember the episode until now. Maybe I'll try to watch it again. The episode, and I remember because it featured a lot of great actors of that time, like Helen Mirren and many actors as well. But let's go back to you. I've seen as well that besides acting, you do some acting workshop or something like that.
Yeah, early in your career, you often hear, I mean, always to take classes, but to get your foot in the door, and to make things feel tangible, doing workshops is always the first step and the first thing that I would recommend people do, because you can get more insight into how to get started, especially as an early artist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a challenge that I found when I started was that it felt like nobody wanted to
Mm-hmm.
talk about anything and everybody kept information close to the chest. And so that's something I make sure not to do when I encounter people who are curious about how to get started or what to do. I spam them with all the information because that wasn't something that I got. And it can feel like it can feel so far away when it doesn't have to be. And so for me, going to the workshops and speaking with casting directors or listening to agents talk about, okay, when you're first getting started, here are the things that you should start thinking about or start adding to your portfolio. And so that was really, really helpful. And also, especially with casting directors, or if you are trying to get picked up as a client, introducing yourself and putting yourself in front of these people that you hope to either represent you or cast you in things. Because, funny story, I was working at a restaurant down where I used to live, where I grew up, and I was serving a couple, and the guy looked at me and he was like, "You look so familiar." And I was like, I jokingly was like, "Well, I'm an actor. Maybe you've seen me on TV." And he was like, "Marcia?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm Mark." And he was a casting director that we see each other a lot. He sees me more than I see him, but he recognized me from my auditions. And it was kind of a surreal moment, and making those human interactions, whether it's in person or at a workshop, is always beneficial, because it does feel like degrees of separation, because now we have home studios and we're not going in person to auditions as often as we used to. So putting a face to a name is taking it back old school, is what I always say. And putting a face to a name definitely can't hurt. And it was just really cool to see him in person. And I think a couple weeks later, I ended up getting a couple of auditions from him. And so it certainly can't hurt, which is what I always say.
Yes, I see you do some hobbies like golf, right, and cooking.
Mhm.
Good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so sports are very good. Maybe in the future you need to be to in a horror film or an action film, right?
Yeah, stamina for the running and the screaming. I wouldn't say golf is the most athletic. It's more technique than
Yes,
anything else. But it got me my first national commercial. So shout out to my
great,
dad for teaching me how to play golf. And
great.
it's been really cool to book. And I've worked on a couple of projects that, because of my golf experience, I've
Yes.
booked the job. So, um, yeah, I don't know how much that would help, but I certainly recognize, my 5 to 7 mile walks every day will come in handy at some
Yes. Yes,
point.
but I want to ask you, if you start in horror films, you like to play, the victim or the villain?
The villain, for sure,
Or
especially because most
maybe
people wouldn't see it coming.
a nice girl, and at the end, it's a twist ending. She's behind everything.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, you didn't suspect me. So yeah, no, I definitely would. I mean, I'd love to be on both sides,
Yes.
but I certainly would prefer to be the villain in the situation, because it's so far from who I am as a person. And I definitely think that the range and the experience being able to play, as we say, would be really fun. And I actually just booked a movie that is I'm dipping my toes in the thriller space, and I'm playing somebody who's not so nice. So I'm excited to
did you
what that looks like.
Did you shoot something that we're about to see next in the upcoming months?
I would imagine so. I'm not exactly sure when it comes out. We start filming next week.
Yeah.
But by the end of the year, I imagine it would be released. I'm not exactly sure where just yet. But yes, that is something I'm looking forward to doing.
Great. And so you can come back and talk about it again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I want to thank you very much today for joining the live, and great talking to you. I wish you all the best in your upcoming projects, and I hope this year and the upcoming years as well, it will be a time when you realize all your dream and your success.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you as well.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day. Take care.
Thank you.
Ciao.
You too.
Bye.